Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome to the First Division Review Show. We'll start off today with Bray Wanderers and Treaty, and Clifford penalty Keane in the 90th minute gave Bray the victory here. Puts Bray up to third in the league, actually, just ahead of Treaty on goal difference. So they're looking good now.
Yeah, this game still gives me bad memories from the very first game of the season this year.
I forgot about that.
When I seen Bray were down to play Treaty this week in the Carlisle, I was saying I'm in for a growl here.
Did you not try and get there?
It was much better. It was much better than the first game of the season. Like, you know, I mean a million times better. Now, that wasn't hard, but both sides actually done okay. I think Bray had an awful lot of the ball, and they weren't really creating clear-cut chances, but they had the upper hand in the game. So I think they got the goal, they got the credit they deserved. Penalty. I would have given a penalty, to be honest with you. Clear as day for me. And look, Clifford sticks it in and they win. So they're up now with Treaty. So, you know, they'll be delighted. I think they'll stay in the playoff positions. Like I said, it's anyone's game. I don't care where they'd finish in the playoffs. Like, money-wise and stuff, there's no difference. So I wouldn't be too worried. I'll be just, once I'm in them positions, I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly, Phil. The only advantage for me is to get there as quick as you possibly can and maybe have a look at your squad, anyone with knocks and all that kind of thing. But Bray are coming into form, I suppose, at the right stage of the season. They haven't lost too many games at all this season. It's really draws have tripped them up, isn't it? But they are coming into form at the right time. Against a stubborn Treaty team, it did put in a decent performance in this game.
Yeah, and I thought Treaty had a couple of chances in the first and second half where they could have had a couple of goals, and I was a bit surprised at how Bray responded. Actually, I was surprised at how good the response was from Bray, because I thought Treaty could have been easily one up at half time. They kind of started well, but I suppose Bray grew into the game as well. And look, the way they've gone this season, they just seem to get better and better each week. And make no mistake about it, although Treaty got bounced off the wall there the other day, last week, they were very competitive in this game. And like, I suppose it'll feel like 6 points for Bray, because they've put a big gap between themselves now and outside of the playoff spots. And I think your point is exactly what they'll probably be thinking of now, Keith, in terms of getting ourselves set for the actual playoffs. You know, I'd say another week or two, maybe 3 weeks of really, really good, strong performances, and just completely put that gap with it out of question. And consolidating that position in the playoffs. And I suppose the way they're playing at the minute, Keith, you wouldn't rule them out. You just wouldn't. I wouldn't personally, and they can beat anyone
especially
at the minute.
Philip, especially with the experience of last season, like, you know what I mean? Because they did push Drogheda very close. In fact, at one stage, I thought they were going to win it. So that experience can help you. And I've said a few weeks ago, Callum Thompson, who was a big player for them last year, is a big addition for them as well. So that kind of thing, like, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose the fact is that they have had a couple of more bodies come in this year, different bodies coming in, and like, I think that probably took a few weeks to get sorted as well towards the start of the season. And I think now they're getting their just desserts, because when you look at them play, Keith, they're actually one of the more enjoyable sides to watch in the league at the minute, you know. And I think, look, there's a bit of fortune. It is a penalty. I think it's an absolute penalty, but I just think it was uncharacteristic of Treaty to give away a penalty in such circumstances, practically the last kick of the game. And, you know, I think they'll be kicking themselves with that result. But Bray at the minute are just flying, and I really enjoy looking at if I don't watch them live, I don't really tend to watch them live. I look back on their highlights and I have to say I really do enjoy watching their games.
Yeah, finished Cork City 4, Cove Ramblers 0 in the Cork Derby. Coffey with 2, Murphy with his 8 goal season, and Whitmarsh. Keane, 7 games now undefeated for Cork. They're not going to get into playoffs, let's be honest. But I've noticed a bit of a change with them. They seem to have gone with Murphy and Whitmarsh up front, which seems to improve on how they play as an attacking force. And look, to win a derby like this is a good result.
Yeah, look, they're coming into a great bit of form, and, you know, they have their eyes firmly on the cup, I think, in my opinion.
That's trickier now than it was a few weeks ago, isn't it?
Yeah, they have the cup coming up now in 2 weeks. And, you know, it's against Pats. They're going to fancy their chances down there. So, you know, I think they're coming into form at the right time if they want to put an upset. And I think they can do it. I genuinely believe that. I'd be just lumping balls onto McNulty and seeing where he drops. If that's what I'd be doing now if it was me. But you know,
Paddy Barrs up front to look after him.
Yeah, no, I do. I genuinely think we'll be okay in that game. But you know, Cork could be delighted. They're on a great run of form, and there's a lot of young lads there. There's a lot of Cork boys, Cork City fans that are playing for the club, and you know, Colin Healy in charge, and they're starting to create something there. Now, when I say create something, it's something very small at the minute, and it's going to take a long time before they do it. Of like, you know, like I said, 3-4 years ago, you're looking and you're saying, Cove Ramblers, you'd probably want to beat them 4-0 in the first 20 minutes. You know, so I don't think it's. I get that they're latching on to every bit of positivity and every bit of results, and you get that. But, you know, I just think it's a little bit over the top for a club of Cork City standards. So I think they'd be disappointed where they are. But look, they can only beat what's in front of them. They can only start by now. And they're starting to do it. It's 7 games unbeaten now. They want to keep that run going for as long as they possibly can. And look, best of luck to them. They're doing well. They're flying at the minute. And you know, you keep winning games. You just never know where they might take them.
Yeah, I mean, Philip, only a few weeks ago they were struggling to score goals. They added that to their game. I think, as I said, with Murphy and Whitmarsh as a duo up front, it's really helped them. Murphy's got blinding pace, but Coffey coming in and getting 2 goals as well. Like, that's a player they brought in. They'd be hoping to tie him down for next season, though, because I don't see the point in bringing him in now, let's say, and losing him at the end of the season, and they don't get the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, Keith. And look, I suppose like it's players like that Cork need at the minute. Do you know what I mean? Players that are going to get people off seats. You know what I mean? And wanting to go and watch them. And look, I suppose the thing I kind of noticed in the past 6 weeks or so about Cork is, look, without being exceptionally good, being okay and solid in games, and then building off a clean sheet, because they've had a couple in the past few weeks. But like, I think they've put a bit of pride back into the club, you know, over the past 7 weeks, and that's something that like Cork fans have probably not seen for 18 months prior to this 7-game streak that they're on at the minute. And it is refreshing, but again, we need to go back to what Keno said. Like 4 years ago, we would have never thought that this was going to be the case. Like, and I'm not going to say anything negative about them now, but I just think that they kind of need to build on what they have and take it game by game. And I think you're right, though, with what Keno said there in terms of the cup. I think that may be something in the back of their minds. Obviously, not 7 weeks previous, like that they've been thinking about the cup game, but I think the fact that it's coming up has kind of took the like tension off the league in a sense, you know. And I think there's a bit more expression about them, and they're playing with a bit more freedom in a sense. And I think that's really shown in their results. And look, make no mistake about it, Cove aren't the best team in the world or the best team in the league by far. But as Keno says, I keep repeating his points, you can only beat what's in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, UCD thumped Athlone by 6 goals to 0. Collie Whelan with a hat-trick, his 15th goal of the season. Lennon Kerrigan and an OG. I seen something the other day, Cian. It was a couple of weeks ago, but it was questioning Adrian Carberry and whether he, should go, etc. Now, I'm not saying he should go, by the way, by any means, but a result like this isn't going to help, is it?
No, I've seen this game on Friday night after the Pats game. I stuck this on when I got home, and I couldn't believe it. Oh my Jesus! 6-0 is just that's a scoreline and a half. So I'd be fuming now if I was that long. That's a shocking result.
Bear in mind, Cian, Athlone were 5 points behind behind UCD going into the game with an opportunity to take them back to 2. So to lose at 6-0 was...
Yeah, it's shocking. There's no excuse for losing 6-0, I don't think. Now, UCD were full deserving of it. It was literally free-flowing football. And it was literally like UCD were just getting the ball, just going for it. Every time they attacked, they felt like they were going to score. Athlone were just so deflated and so out on their feet. They looked tired. Look, it's easy for me to say they look tired when they're 3 or 4-0 down, because it's always going to be harder. But UCD just knocked it around like a tree, and it was literally let's get through the game for Athlone. Let's wind this clock down as much as we can. Let's keep them with the ball and we'll just run after them chasing shadows. That's what it was like. We never seen a game, even watching, Wexford play and Cabinteely and the so-called posters. I've never seen such a divide in between the two teams than I did against UCD.
It's unreal. Collie Whelan, Keane, how good is he though? Do you think he can play Premier Division football soon? Or
yeah,
I know the style of UCD. Strikers always get chances, don't they? At UCD as well, goal scoring opportunities. Like,
look, you need to have a little bit of caution about this as well.
Yeah.
Like, look, Yo-Yo was probably the best striker in the first division. He hasn't done anything this season. Now, I know people would say he probably hasn't played as such, or he hasn't done this, or he hasn't done that.
Left wing a lot of the time, but even so.
You'd expect him to go there and tear it up, considering what he was doing at UCD in a team like Shelbourne, Calabar. And Michael O'Connor coming in probably killed them a little bit. But, you'd be a little bit disappointed if you were Yo-Yo. But that's what I'm saying. There's a little bit of a gap there. Look, we've seen first division strikers, Davy McMillan, Georgie Kelly.
Manley.
Manley.
Yeah.
We've seen strikers do it and do very well out of it. I think Manley probably had one season at Cabinteely that he was just unbelievable, and he hasn't done anything before that season really.
So Whelan, you could say it's two.
Yeah.
With Whelan, you could say it's two, but I just find that playing for UCD, if you're even a good striker, you do tend the way to play. You just get loads of goals, but it's hard to bring that into other teams, like you've mentioned with Yo-Yo Maddy, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So look, he needs to go to a right team. He needs to go to a team that plays decent football. And I don't like being real, but there's not a lot of teams that play decent football, in the league. And I'm not putting any teams down by saying that. If you went to a Premier Division club, you'd be looking at Shamrock Rovers, you'd be looking at St. Pat's, you'd be looking at Sligo. Possibly.
And then it's harder to get in those teams.
Yeah.
That's the other side.
So they're the only three teams at this minute in time that I would say would suit the way Willow plays. So I'd be a little bit wary of him. I think he should stay where he is for another season.
Yeah.
He has 3 years under his belt then at UCD, where he's at the banging in probably 60 odd goals in the 3 years. And it's great experience then. He can lead in, or even if he has a good start to the season, and we're looking at Pat's probably in Europe next year, might be looking to add to the squad and take him in the window, or stuff like that. That's how a lot of UCD players tend to live. They don't go the end of the season. They tend to leave halfway through the season. So, I'd stay if I was him at least until the summer next year, and then see which clubs come in for him. But there's definitely going to be clubs looking at him in the off season. There's no doubt. And look, I'd be happy to see him in a Pat shirt, and I think any team in the league would be happy to see him in their shirt. And hopefully he can do half as good as he done by UCD. And I think he'd be a great addition to any team.
Yeah, I agree with all that, to be honest. Philip, Athlone, I mean, they've brought in a lot of players again in the summer window as such. What's gone wrong there in your view?
That is the problem, I think. I think they brought in too many players and disrupted the flow, you know what I mean? It looked like just before the window opened, Keith, it looked like they were coming into a bit of form, and they looked like, without setting the world alight, they looked like they were going to get a couple of results on the board, do you know what I mean? I've mentioned it a couple of times. I've seen them live against Cabinteely, and they look pretty solid, and I just think the fact that there's been a couple of changes, and I just think the whole defensive unit of Athlone at the minute, we've seen it against UCD, but just the past couple of weeks they just don't look like they're capable of keeping a clean sheet. And look, they probably have kept a few over the past month or so, but just when you're watching them play, they don't look like they're going to win games at the minute, and that's something that, as a neutral looking at it, you worry, but as an Athlone fan, you'd worry even more so, with the fact that, do you know what I mean, you're conceding 6 against UCD and you're looking to try and get into the playoffs. I know there's questions about the manager, but I don't think that is where it lies at the minute. I think it probably lies a bit higher up in terms of what Athlone have been doing and what they what they've done over the past couple of years, because it doesn't seem to be that progression that maybe they probably would have liked, Look, they've obviously came a long way from the Dundalk game, but on a general consensus before that, they were kind of going nowhere, Like this year, they've done well to get where they have, but I think kind of as a plan and as an organisation, they've got their pitch down there or whatever, and they've done well with that. But I think they kind of need to start looking a bit further up now in terms of where they want to go, because otherwise they just probably will never get out of the first division, because like they just don't look at the minute like they're able to win a game.
Yeah, absolutely. You finished Wexford 2, Cabinteely 1. Wexford's second win of the season. And after Cabinteely, the blinding result the other weekend, we've talked about this, haven't we? You could kind of nearly see it coming that they'd lose the following week. Moylan and Robinson scoring for Wexford. They seem to be a bit of a dynamic duo at the moment. Keane, kind of similarly to Colin Whelan in many ways. I mean, Robinson scored 7 goals this season with Wexford. For a team that's been bottom of the league and only got their second win, that's a decent return, isn't it?
Very decent return. You have to be happy with that, and I think Pats have to be happy with that.
It's a good loan move for Pats as well, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we've seen in recent years loan players going down there and doing well. The likes of Paul Cleary and stuff like that, who's signed for them and all now. But it's great to see. It's great to see you loaning out these players and they're playing well and they're scoring, and people are talking about them. Delighted if I was Ian Ryan. I'd be delighted if we was Robinson. I'd be delighted with Pats. It's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
And you have to be happy with it. So I'd be delighted. So honestly, I think that's where Wexford can start picking up players, in the loan market, and start looking at that, and start going into Shamrock Rovers, start going into Pats, start going into Bows, and saying, look, we're going to give you lads a license to play. You come down to us, and this is what we can do, as well as bring up a couple of young lads as well. And I do think it can work. So,
Turn them into Rovers B, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Genuine, you think this is good?
A bit like Pat Speed this year, but anyway.
Yeah, it's a good move for all parties here. So I don't think anyone loses in it. But look, what a win! I didn't see the game. I didn't get a chance to watch it over the weekend at all. But look, you can't go wrong with that. It was great.
Exactly. Like, I'd argue, Philip, we were talking about Whelan a second ago, it's kind of tying into my narrative a bit, but I'd argue Whelan wouldn't have 15 goals for Wexford, let's say, and I reckon Kyle Robinson could well have Whelan's record. Do you know what I mean, at UCD, as an example?
Tell you, some composer with knitting it all together, Keith, to be fair. Yeah, look, I just think, right, the way I look at it is great result for Wexford, but they probably won't win for another 6 weeks, do you know what I mean? And that's just the way their season's been. And, without being too critical of them, like these are young lads that are playing at Wexford. It is hard to watch a team like that when you're like, right, they'll win a game and then they'll lose for 6 weeks. The travelling pundits have had a great weekend, I'd imagine, and I'd imagine that probably won't happen again for another few weeks with the way they've been. But I've looked back on the highlights on this, Keith, and to be honest with you, Cabinteely, holy divine Jesus, they would drive you up the wall, like, because, you know what I mean, you go out and see them put in a great performance last week and get a good result, and you're like, right, we can build on this.
They've proven our point this week that we mentioned last week, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly, Keith. But like, it's so frustrating. As I said, like, I've spoken to a couple of players at the club since, because I know a couple of lads, but like, they're just really, really frustrating about the fact that they can't seem to get a couple of results together. And look, I just think that it's gonna end up going one way, and that's probably finishing outside the playoffs and losing their best players and having to start from scratch and going back a couple of years when it comes to the start of next season in terms of their progress. So I'm obviously frustrated for them, but look, I don't know who's running that club and what they're doing, but it's not right whatever they're going at.
The finished Galway 3, Shelbourne 1, Keane. Obviously, Shelbourne's first defeat of the season, and it was a big defeat because Galway were 3-0 up going into the last minute here. Doherty, Bruder, and Keating with his 8th of the season. McManus for Shells. So Shelbourne fans panic, Keane.
That's like, I'm sorry, but no, look, I'm gonna go off on one here, right? So just bear with us.
I've teed him up.
No, I'm fuming at this one. You lose one game all season. Yeah, I know they lost the cup game. Forget about that. You lose one league game all season, and the fans are going, AWOL over this result. They're questioning the manager, they're questioning this, they're questioning that. They're having a laugh. They're top of the first division. They're going to be playing Premier Division football next year. What more do you want? Like, I don't know. I'm fuming over it. I've seen all this on social media, and I can't get my head around it. Like, what more do we want? I'm fuming over it. I thought in the game now they were second best right through the game. That was nothing. There was nothing to say they were going to win it. Look, I know Galway battered them for starting off, and it's, you're 3-0 down. It's tough, but that Galway managed the game well from then on. And I know Shells got one back, but they were never in doubt that they were going to lose the game. Galway in the end, they were in full control of it. But as for the fans giving out and questioning Morrison, give you a head of wobble. In my opinion, like I don't know what more do you want? You're top of the first division, like I just don't get that.
People that don't understand football.
There's 8 games to go in the season, and this is their first defeat. Like,
Kate, you just
even Shamrock Rovers have lost, Philip. No, but Philip, like, it is a bit like, I don't know, like, what to say. Really,
idiots. They're idiots. People that say that are idiots. Like, and it's not even an argument.
It's probably a little bit embarrassing for the Shelbourne fans who obviously, don't think
understand football. Yeah, that understand football. Look, let them all go off on their rant or whatever. We won't talk about it too much. They're just plain and simple. They're bloody idiots, and that's it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm going to talk about the game. Shells were shocking in general. I thought, like, they never got going. And look, I'm not going to go and slate Shells because they've been brilliant all season, and they're allowed to have an off day. You know what I mean? You can have a couple of them during the season, but the fact that they've only had one to this point tells you exactly what they're doing, where they're going. I think Ian Morris is the right man for the job. I think they're going the right way. They've got the right players in, and I just can't look past them now in terms of when they do go up. I do have a little side play for Galway to win the league, but we'll reveal that toward the end of the season. But as I said, it is interesting now that the gap is only 4 points. I'll tell you after, Keno. I'll tell you after what I'm talking about.
7 points, Philip. 7 points.
Is it 7 now? Yeah. Is it? Sorry, I thought it was 4.
You want to revoke that bet?
Yeah. Thank you.
27-1 on them to win from Galway to win the league. I've done it after I watched them in their game where they won 4-0 against Bray. So, I hope that does happen. But look, at the end of the day, Shells will be deserved champions if they do win, and they should win it. But again, look, it is just tinning away. Those points are tinning away at that big gap that they had a few weeks ago, and they wouldn't want to put too many more performances in like they did here, because they will drop a couple of more points before the end of the season. But again, I'm not going to go mad at them because they've been exceptional this year, and I think we can all agree they're probably one of the form sides of both divisions.
Let me put it to you this way: are Galway the only team in the league capable of doing that to Shelbourne though, on their day? Like, do you think? Or do you think there's other teams that could do that, like a Bray?
Literally, yeah, you took the word out of my mouth. I think Bray could do it at the moment. Bray could definitely do it at the moment. But like, we need to put it into perspective as well, Keith. This Shelbourne side has been chopped and changed the past couple of weeks with the likes of the COVID and a couple of injuries, and like, I don't know how they were competitive the previous week in terms of when they had to start the young lad in goal and all, and
I still think, to be honest, Phil, I think that was over-exaggerated. I still think they're a strong team out, if I'm honest with you. Like, the goalkeeper, you can get away with because he mightn't get peppered with shots, etc., etc. You know what I mean? I did think they're a fairly strong side out. And UCD were missing Whelan as well, just to put that into play too. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, but like, I just think that, like, those things, like little things like that, affect the football team. Do you know what I mean, Keith?
Yeah.
Even if they're not missing too many players, still, Jesus, we have positive, might have positive cases in the camp, and we're missing such and such. Those things go through players' minds in games. I'd say it probably has affected them the past couple of weeks in terms of how they played. But look, again, I'm not going to slate them. They've been fantastic, Keith, and I think that they could beat anyone on any day. And look, as I said about the top flight, any team can beat anyone on any given day, and it can happen in the first division as well. But I think Shells have kind of nearly put that point to the sword in terms of what they've done to this point of the season. Obviously, losing during the night is at the change in that, but they've been exceptional.
Yeah, I still think they're big favourites, even if they lose another game or two, to be honest, which I still think they can afford to lose another game or two. Anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, like the video, comment away, and thanks again, boys. Brilliant stuff.